Welcome everybody and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Steve Philp and I'm the Partnership Director here at Portugal Pathways, and I'll be hosting today's webinar discussion. Today's session is all about Portugal's golden visa and why it is still the most sought after residency by investment program. We'll also be discussing the fund route, the due diligence citizenship after 5 years, and an EU passport for you and your qualifying family. Before we bring in our expert panel, just a quick reminder to please leave your questions and comments in the chat. If we don't get around to answering those questions in the live scenario or at the end in the Q&A, and the team at Portugal Pathway will arrange any discovery calls that you may require. So let's get started and let me introduce you to your panelists. Firstly, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Paul Stannard. Paul is the chairman and founder of Portugal Pathways and the Portugal Investment Owners Club. Joining Paul, we have Henrique Nunes. Henrique is the lead immigration lawyer at CMS in Lisbon. And lastly, we have Antonio Cardoso, who is a senior analyst at the Portugal Future Fund and Quadrantis. So welcome to you all, and welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to sort of just start to set the scene, and Paul, I'm going to start with you. The Portugal Golden Visa Programme has been around since 2012, but demand has been at record levels in 2025, as Portugal Pathways inbox will attest to. So can you share your perspective on why the programme continues to attract global families, and what are the driving investor interest in Portugal compared to other EU countries?
Yes, thanks, Steve. I mean, there are many reasons, but one of them is the welcoming nature of the people in Portugal, the climate, the fact that it's on the edge of Europe and gives you access to the 29 Schengen region countries, and also the fact that you only have to be in country during the 5-year visa, 7 days in a calendar year. You also don't have to take up tax status in Portugal. At that point, you can transition to that later if you so wish. But the big thing is the country, really. The food, the lifestyle, and also economically, Portugal now is attracting a lot of investment, a lot of talent, and is actually outperforming some of the larger nations in Europe, Germany, France, and I'll say UK, but it's not Europe, but it is. And so there are a lot of reasons that are driving it. And also we're seeing geopolitically, a lot of change in the world, and people are looking for a plan B, a second passport that they can put in their family's back pocket. And Portugal is the #1 program and the most established and safe and secure out there right now.
Cool. Henry, anything that you want to sort of add to what Paul has said?
Yes, I would just the main advantage of the golden visa is indeed the fact that you can get a second residence in Portugal, as Paul was saying, only by staying 7 days per year in Portugal. Okay, and adding to that, it also gives the applicants the right to freely circulate within the Schengen area, any Schengen country, for periods up to 90 days. Okay, I would just add to what Steve said, that comparing with the other golden visa programs that we have in Europe, namely the ones that were more chased by other applicants, the Spanish one, the Greek one, and the Maltese. The Portuguese, it's indeed the one that is most interesting when comparing with these three. And really quickly, the Maltese, which was well known as the golden passport, no longer exists nowadays. In Greece, all the applicants that had invested there already got to the final stage of the 5th year. They applied for the citizenship, but they are not getting the citizenship, contrary to what they were expecting. So actually, we are receiving now in Portugal many of the applicants that tried to get the Greek citizenship and didn't manage to. So we are receiving part of them. When comparing with the Spanish, with our neighbors, with the Spanish golden visa, the truth is that you have 10 years instead of 5, and you need to actually live there in order for the Spanish government to give you the citizenship. So when comparing with the other golden visa programs around Europe, the Portuguese is still the most interesting one. And just in conclusion, I think that with the world going crazy, as everyone has been watching worldwide, I think that most of the people want to have a plan B, want to have an alternative. And for all these reasons that Paul just said, and that I just add, the Portuguese golden visa, it's definitely the most interesting one.
Oh, thank you, Henry. And then, Antonio, I don't want to leave you out, but Paul and Henry haven't really left you much to go with. But is there anything else you want to add before we sort of move on?
Well, not much, as you mentioned, but yeah, I would just mention the safety, because as Enrique and Paul mentioned, the world is going crazy, and Portugal is one of the safest, actually the 7th safest country in the world to live. So if you most of the golden visa applicants are seeking a safe country to bring their families in, and safety is one of the most important factors that comes into this equation. Also, it's good people, good food, and good weather that Paul mentioned, at an affordable cost of living, good education and good healthcare services, while earning some extra return by investing in the fund.
Thank you, everybody.
I mean, Steve, on just one point on that cost of living thing, I was in Nazaré yesterday with a golden visa client that's looking to buy a home there, not through their golden visa, but we sat on the bottom. There was three beers for €3.60 on a beachfront packed. I think, I don't think you're going to get anywhere in Europe that's going to do that in a place like that, and it blows my mind sometimes how straight and honest and accommodating they are. Even in places like that where they could be pushing the price points. So sorry, I'll just digress.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Henry, I'd like to bring you in at this point. So from the legal immigration side, there have been changes over the past 2 years. Obviously, phased out the property, as Paul just alluded to just then, as a qualifying investment route, that is. Could you walk us through the current framework, the sort of minimum investment amount, the 5-year residency timeline, and what international investors should be aware of if their ultimate goal is citizenship and an EU passport?
Okay, yes. So really quickly, as you were saying, real estate investment are no longer eligible for golden visa purposes. You still have 2 types of investments that are considered eligible: 500,000 invested in private equity funds, so in the acquisition on participation units of eligible private equity funds, and the investment in Portuguese companies. Okay, the same 500,000. It's important to say that according to the law currently in force, the applicants need to accumulate 5 years of legal residency, after which they can apply for the Portuguese citizenship. During those 5 years, they need to be 7 days per year in Portugal, or 14 days because when they go for the renewal after 2 years, they need to demonstrate the 14 days. Those 7 days per year can be spent 7 days each year, 14 days in the first year, 14 days in the second year, but an average of 7 days per year. They need to renew it. They get the citizenship, they renew it the number of times that are needed. When they get to the 5th year, they are eligible for the citizenship, as long as they also get an A2 level certificate of Portuguese, which can also be issued by entities that give you only by attending 150 online classes. And so the applicant demonstrates the 5 years of legal residency, the A2 level certificate, and they are eligible for the citizenship. Regarding the types of investment, I think it's just important to say that as we have these two types of investment, private equity funds or Portuguese companies, most of the clients are not going to believe here, don't want to be worried with the daily management of a company. So what is happening is that 98% of easily 98% of our clients have been choosing the investment in private equity funds in order to comply with the investment requirements and in order to move forward with the process that will allow them to ask for the citizenship 5 years after the golden visa request. Just one note to let you know that according to the law currently in force, these 5 years start counting from the moment the golden visa is submitted online, which means that even while the applicant is waiting for the cards, which may take some time, the 5 years are already counting from the moment the golden visa was submitted online. And this was a result of a recent legal amendment, and it's actually a game changer for many of the applicants, as they are not in a rush to get the visa. They know that once they file it online, it's already counting for the 5 years, so it doesn't matter when they receive the cards or not. I think it was more or less this, Steve. I don't know if you want me to touch base regarding any other aspects.
No. I think I'm going to come over to Antonio, because you obviously mentioned the fund route and the fact that
yes,
yourselves and also Portugal Pathways, we're seeing 98, probably 99% in all reality of applicants going down the fund route. So Antonio, the fund route, as we alluded to just now, it continues to be the main option. But obviously, the landscape is really broad. Now, there are more than 50 CMVM regulated funds in Portugal which are approved for the golden visa. From your perspective, as I know the Portugal Future Fund has seen a lot of traction and a lot of interest since it opened early this year, and obviously with Quadrantis' capital track record, which is seeing consistent annual returns of close to 15%, obviously this demonstrates that your track record of delivering consistently on the internal rate of return. So with your experience, what criteria should investors use to evaluate funds beyond just expected returns? And how should they sort of think about risk management and liquidity and compliance when comparing different fund opportunities?
So thank you. That's a very good question. Just adding up on what Enrique has mentioned, I think it's very important also to say that there are no such thing as golden visa funds. The only thing that it needs to be considered when selecting a fund in what comes to the golden visa is that the fund may need to comply with two different factors. One is that 60% of the capital raised is invested in companies with activity in Portugal, and two, that the fund does not engage directly or indirectly in real estate related projects, meaning that they will not invest in the development of houses with the sole purpose of selling them in the short term. So going on to your question, and just taking a step back, just to talk a little bit more about Quadrantis. Quadrantis is a venture capital and private equity firm regulated by CMVM, acting in Portugal since 2014. We manage over 350 million euros, divided by 15 different funds with an average IRR of 15%. But today we will be focused more on our flagship vehicle, that is the Portugal Future Fund, that is a CMVM regulated closed-end fund, fully compliant with the AMO rules. with a 7-year maturity and a minimum subscription of 100,000 euros. Knowing that if you wanted to, anyone who's interested in applying to the Golden Visa, the total amount of investment that needs to be done in Portugal is 500,000 euros or more. So when selecting a fund, it will depend, of course, on the investment preferences of each investor. But I think that are the 3 or 4 different criteria that need to be assessed. One is the regulatory oversight, verify if the fund is or not approved by CMVM and if it has a licensed custodian bank. What is the diversification policy? Avoid funds overly concentrated in one sector or geography. The liquidity and the exit strategy. Understand the fund's lockup period and exit pathways, and also the transparency. Ensure that the clear reporting standards, quarterly updates, and audited accounts. Of course, that because we are dealing with Golden Visa investments, I think the liquidity of the fund matters little or none here, because to be the investors to the fund should expect to be with the money locked at least 7 years, so that they can first apply for visa and then choose the path of citizenship or a permanent residency.
Lovely. Thank you, Antonio. Paul or Henry, anything that you want to add to what Antonio outlined there?
Henry,
you're mute still.
Sorry, I got them.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you. No, one of the things I would just add, because it's indeed 99% of the clients of the investors have been going through the investment in funds. Also, because in the other modality of investing the 500,000 in Portuguese companies, you need to assure that you have between 5 permanent jobs and 10 permanent jobs, depending if it's an existing company or not. Okay, and this is another reason why international investors don't want to be investing in Portuguese companies, because they will be stuck to permanent employees. And in Portugal, just like in other Latin countries, you don't want to mess with the labor code. Okay, so this is one of the reasons, one of the additional reasons why investors have been choosing to invest in funds and not in companies. I would just add.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say, Steve, is the diversification. You know, look for the fund managers that have got strong track records and are deep seated in the country, because there are only 17 public companies. So, you know, private equity in Europe has been outperforming, America in the last 6 months at least, and is forecast to perform well in the future. But I mean, past performance isn't a prerequisite of the future. But, you know, diversified funds that are investing in 4 or 5 sectors, like the Portugal Future Fund, does give you diversification. But there are open funds where you can invest in public stocks and bonds, but obviously with a very limited public market, just, some energy companies and some banks. You have to be careful to make sure you get that diversification, and we're very happy to walk you through what some of the options are ahead of time. But before you do all of that, you do need to start the process and get the NIF and the bank account moving.
Thank you, everybody. Just to sort of reiterate what Paul was saying, obviously, if you want to have a chat with us at Portugal Pathways to understand more about over 30 of the main alternative investment funds that are registered with the Portuguese financial regulators, the CMVM, for the Golden Visa. One of my colleagues will be putting a link in the chat and on the screen, so please feel free to arrange an obligation discovery call with one of our Golden Visa advisors. So we're going to sort of move on a little bit now to look at sort of trends and sort of look at some of the global context that is sort of driving the Portugal's Golden Visa. And Paul, coming to you. So we're seeing, and our inboxes are certainly seeing lots and lots of families from the US and Canada, UK, now also Turkey, South Africa, Middle East and Asia, all considering Portugal's golden visa. And so from your own perspective, what are you seeing right now in terms of the types of families and investors and their sort of motivations and their goals?
Well, the first thing I'd say, in the first half of this year, we did as many golden visas as we did the whole of last year, and I think we're similar to the previous year. So demand isn't decreasing, but families do seem more intent. There seems to be more of a "I want to get this done" situation, whereas before, probably a year ago, well, at some point in the future, I might look at that. And I think that's maybe what's going on geopolitically that's driving that, especially with the Americans seeing a lot at the moment, but also Brits with what's happening with taxation on inheritance tax, capital gains, people from Turkey, from South Africa, Middle East, it's really across the board. But they want that safety and security. They want that plan B. I read an article this morning about the LGBT community, in America getting very worried, and there's a lot of wealth around, there that wants more security. And it's not just on one political side of a fence. It's really about lifestyle and about what people want from life, and Portugal does tick a lot of boxes from a life perspective, but also, it does have some incentives to encourage you to open up businesses in the future. So we are seeing a lot more entrepreneurs and value creators coming to Portugal, and not just sort of retirees, if that's such a thing anymore, a pure retiree. But that is definitely the goals are to, where can I go next with my life? How can I be a global citizen? How can I explore, Portugal, but also wider Europe, and take in, the wonderful food, the culture, the lifestyle. They're the motivations, really. But I would say it's speeding up. One thing I would say is, though, certain things in Portugal will be slow by nature. So that's what you're buying into. But, sometimes, bureaucracy can slow things down. And you have to sometimes go with that, because that's how it is. That's part of the benefit. So sometimes things do take a little bit longer. But if you've got the right partners, you can navigate that, because there are always solutions. They just might take a few weeks or a few days longer than you might be used to.
Thank you, Paul. And Antonio, anything that you want to sort of add to that? Because again, I mean, no doubt you've seen a marked increase in the number of applicants and families. Are you seeing anything that you, from a motivational point of view, or the types of families that you're now seeing?
Yeah. As Paul mentioned, as we briefly mentioned at the beginning of the call, for sure that the global political instability and the wars are driving people to seek second options, as Enrique mentioned, and we are seeing an increased demand from people all around the world, Chinese, US, UK, Turkey, all countries from each and every continent, really. And of course, that are global trends that are driving the economy, and these are the ones that we have chosen as the one that the Portugal Future Fund will be invested in, because we identified it as the sectors that will drive the growth in the years to come. And those are the healthcare sector, because of people will expect to live longer every single year. Private health sector is expected to grow over 8% annually. The technology and innovation and information, of course, that we are seeing the AI boom. in Portugal, supported by world-class engineering talent and business-friendly ecosystem, is at the forefront of this trend. Also, the tourism and hospitality. 1/4 of the Portuguese GDP drives from tourism and hospitality. This sector is forecasted to expand significantly with over 14 billion of investment in infrastructures. The renewable energies to meet the carbon neutrality goals. Portugal already sources 81% of its electricity from green energies, and is leading Europe in this sector also. Media and events, a fast-growing space thanks to international visibility from events like the Web Summit, the 2030 FIFA World Cup. So basically, these are the main drivers to the people that are seeking us and are choosing the Portugal Future Fund.
Thank you, Antonio. Henry, so one of the sort of common questions that we hear on calls, particularly with a lot of US investors, is around what their tax liabilities might be, and so what the sort of important things that they should consider with regards to that part of the process.
So first of all, it's important to note that the international investors should get tax advice from their country of origin, right? Just to make sure that between the double tax treaties and between all the tax laws in force, that we are totally sure of the regime that is going to be applicable, especially in what concerns to American investors, right? To US connected citizens, because they are taxed on their worldwide income. Doesn't matter where they are, and doesn't matter where their tax residence is. So in these cases, it's important to make sure that they have they are properly advised also in their country of origin. Okay. For non-Portuguese investors in alternative investment funds, they are not liable for tax on upsides. Okay, so in those cases, would be easier. But I mean, we need to check case by case what is going to be the situation, and it's important at this stage. It's just important to note that. One thing is the immigrant status. A complete different thing is the tax status. Okay, so speaking about the non-Portuguese investors that are not Americans, you can choose to have a golden visa without any kind of tax implications. So you may choose to move your tax residence here, or to keep your tax residence where it was already before investing in the golden visa. It's an option, a decision that needs to be made by the investor after checking here with our tax advisors at CMS and with their tax advisors in the country of origin, what is going to be the best regime to be applicable to. In the case of Americans, it's always a little bit more complicated to have a tax regime that is completely advantageous, because they will always pay taxes in the US. But it's this, so it needs to be analyzed case by case. But it's really important to have also a tax advice on their country of origin.
Lovely. Thank you, Antonio. Henrique. Antonio, anything to add on what Henrique said?
No, I think Enrique summed it all very well, so I will not add anything on that topic.
Okay, thank you. So,
Steve, could I just mention on that, just with the whole sort of tax side of it, agree totally with what Henrique said. And what we've found where it works well is if they've got advisors in their home country, and then they work with our Portuguese advisors and work collegiately together, that's where you end up with the best solution. If you just listen to one side of it without pairing up the other side of, because we're talking about double taxation here, so it will be different in different countries. So you've got to marry up the benefits to then to get to the best place, you know. And that would be our advice, and Portugal Pathways can help facilitate those connections.
Thank you for clarifying that. So I'm just thinking, what are the types of challenges that can trip up investors with regards to the application process, and how do we sort of help clients and avoid delays? So, for example, it does take some time to set up a NIF, tax ID, and the Portugal bank account. Obviously, it has been taking a little bit longer during the summer. Plus, is it a financial requirement of any fund to check the source of funds, KYC, and any other sort of financial compliance matters that are part of the duties in terms of reporting to the Portuguese regulators, the CMVM? So, Henry and Antonio, I'll sort of start with you on this one.
Sure, I can start this one. So basically, yeah, for sure that delays in obtaining the NIF, it's not very common, but it takes normally, and Enrique can correct me if I'm wrong, 2 or 3 weeks to get it. But yeah, sometimes it takes a little longer to open the Portuguese bank account. The solution is we coordinate directly with, in this case, CMS and our bank partners as Bison or Banco Atlântico. And we have direct contacts there, so we can speed up the process as much as possible. Yeah, but I would going on to your question about the proof of funds and the source of funds. Yeah, we are because we are supervised by CMVM. We are obliged to get information about the source of funds, the KYC. But basically, just to sum things up, we need to get information about to identify the investors. Who they are, where they live, what they do for a living, and then to understand where is the source. They need to show us a bank account, an IRA account, a brokerage account, just showing at least 500,000 euros, 100,000 euros, the amount of money that they want to use to invest in the funds, and also what is the source of that fund. If it's labor earnings from work, if it's earnings from investments, or from selling the a physical or non-tangible asset that they have. It's just very simple information, and this is one of the bottlenecks that sometimes we encounter when checking and when analyzing these type of processes, because people tend to not to present us the necessary information, and this goes back and forth between ourselves, the lawyers, and the final clients. But once again, we have straight channels with CMS and the other partners that we have, like Bison, for instance, and we use that and we leverage that to speed up the processes.
Lovely, thank you. Antonio, sorry, Henry, anything you want to sort of add?
Yes. Let me just add a few things. First of all, it's true, Antonio, that it should take around 3 weeks to get the NIF through our contacts. We get the Portuguese tax ID in 3 days, 1 week maximum. Okay, not more than that. What is important? So of course there are some challenges, and some delays may occur regarding the NIF, or regarding the opening of the bank account or the issuance of the statement. In order to avoid these delays, the idea is that we use all the process runs within the contacts we have. Okay, so within the account managers we usually work with, within Pathways and Portugal Future Fund and CMS, the idea is that we use all our contacts, and then we are constantly in touch in order to avoid delays. For example, the NIF, we have contacts in order to make sure that it does not take more than 1 week. It's really uncommon that we take more than 1 week to get the Portuguese tax ID. It may happen, but it's not common. Also, the bank account. It's important that once the Portuguese tax ID is issued, we immediately introduce you to an account manager of our trust within the banks that we like to work with. And this applies to all the players in the chain. Okay, so the idea is that we are always in touch, and that we support the client along the way since moment zero. issuing the Portuguese tax ID, introducing to the bank, helping with the KYC, not only with the bank but also with the funds, supporting along the way as to make sure that we complete the investment in the fund as soon as possible, then filing the golden visa, and all the different stages until the moment the cards are issued. So actually, yes, we might have some delays, but in using our contacts and making sure that all the players within the process that we are in touch, we make sure that those delays, or well, that we mitigate as much as we can those delays, Steve.
Thank you very much. Obviously, I think Antonio and yourself, Henrik, mentioned, obviously there is a team working alongside the investor to ensure that a smooth application is made, and one of those is sort of demonstrated with regards to some of the documentation that is needed from both the attorney side and the fund manager side, and how you share that document to cut down on the application process as well. So there's a lot of examples which, again, if the audience want to understand more about the application process and how Portugal Pathways, along with partners such as Portugal Future Fund and CMS, build a team to support them, then obviously please sort of reach out to us and just arrange that sort of initial
let me just add, I think it's really important for those who are interested to have a call to go deeper into the details, but just for the information of everyone that is listening to us. So everyone will be, in case you move forward with us, they will have my direct contact. They can call me anytime, but they will have from CMS a second point of contact that will always, so I will always get back to the clients, of course, but in case I'm abroad in meetings or in case I'm in court or something like that, they will always have a second point of contact in case any urgent qualification or any urgent access to a document. So from CMS perspective, they will always have at least 2 points of contact for anything that is needed.
Just to add, yeah, the same happens with Quadrantes. Of course, that if anyone, we are constantly available for to clarify any questions or to go follow up on any subject. And just to give you a perspective, we have approved some process from the moment they entered our email accounts, or within 1 day, 2 days. So it will depend, of course, on the documentation you are able to provide. We have a very good relationship with CMVM and Portugal Pathways, so we already know each other, and we already know what type of information you need to present to us. It's a matter of, or if you are as in the investor are able or not to provide that information to CMS, and then send it to us.
Lovely. Antonio, sort of staying with you and sort of moving on to a little bit around sort of due diligence and reporting, obviously from the fund side. How often do you have to report to the regulators and the investors themselves?
We have to do quarterly reports to CMVM, but because we are a closed-end fund, we only update the value of the participation unit twice per year, in June and in December. More or less in September, you will receive a brief report about the activity of the fund, what is the value of the participation units, which are the investments that we made, and what are the expenses, and also the profits that we were able to generate within 1 semester. And then together with the auditor, in April we issued like the reports and account report, basically with very in-depth information about the activity of the fund within the last year. So basically, in terms of reporting, is that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Antonio. Paul, could you sort of talk a little bit around the sort of different types of funds that are available? I mean, Portugal Pathways obviously runs the Golden Visa Index, so maybe you could explain a little bit about that as well, and maybe talk around the different types of funds available to investors.
Yeah, I mean, we put the Portugal Golden Visa Index together because, you had a lot of new funds coming in and funds going out, and it's very hard to navigate this. So we have a team of analysts that put that index together, and they update it monthly in real time. And then when clients come in, we don't just send it out because it's privileged information and it's our IP, but we'll sit down with the clients and try and understand the type of investments and what their life goals are, and then align some funds that are relevant to those goals. But the types of funds that are out there, they come into sort of a number of different buckets. You've got open funds, which are open in that you can sell them at any day or time, and they tend to be in public stocks because of that, so public stocks and bonds. But the thing to remember, having an investment in an open fund doesn't, if you draw it down, you invalidate your golden visa. So the whole purpose for doing it, if you don't maintain your investment for the 5 years and then the time it takes to apply for permanent citizenship, which is typically another 18 months, 2 years, but who knows how busy or improved the timings will be in 5 years. Nobody can predict that, but it is coming down slightly because they're throwing more resources at it. But in reality, you've got to hold the investment probably for 7 years, because it's going to take that long to get permanent citizenship, and the government require you to continue to have your investment. So investing in an open fund means public stocks and bonds in the main, and that the investment has to be 60% in Portuguese companies, and 40% of it can be in international private equity. And then you've what I call blended funds that invest in multiple sectors, like we said earlier, where these are closed funds where, again, you're in there for typically 7 years. And many of these funds, if they want to extend it for a year because it's in the investor's interest, they have to write to everybody, and at least 60% of people have to agree to that. So these blended funds are, what we're seeing with those, and more traction, because they are investing in these sectors that Portugal are doing well in: healthcare, media and international events, tech, hospitality. These are all areas in healthcare that Portugal are punching above its weight, and that's where the talent's coming. That's where the money's coming. So, we've got a number of those, and many of those, like the Portugal Future Fund, got strong track records in Portugal. So there's those. And then you have single sector funds where they're investing in just hospitality or just biotech. For instance, there's a biotech fund. So they're typically the types of funds. But again, look for the track record. Look for the diversification, and you can invest in more than one fund. We don't typically see many people invest in more than two, because the additional KYC, additional back and forth and reporting. So two is typically the sort of most, but many people, if they've got diversification across many sectors, then one fund is all that's required. So that's what we're seeing.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Paul, I'm going to stay with you, and really just to look at some of these sort of key sectors. You mentioned a few of them before, which is in terms of sort of growth sectors, and then obviously how you can create more diversification. I know we've got some slides that you can talk around, so give me 2 seconds just while I load those up for you.
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I mean, I won't labour these too much, but in terms of media, I think Antonio talked about this quite a lot. The World Cup, there's a big international event next month, the IFA conference. It's the first time over 2,500 delegates of the IFAs that represent some of the most wealthy people and money in the world are all descending on Lisbon. For the first time in 50 years, they're choosing to have their annual conference there. And it's the third most popular place in the world to hold an international event. So media and international events, very strong and a growing market. And a lot because more intention is on Portugal, you know. So that's that one. And then other ones, healthcare. Portugal has the third best healthcare infrastructure in the world. So the combination of its public healthcare system at the point of care with a very strong and affordable private healthcare system. So all internationals that come in have to have private healthcare, but they, you know, if they have a problem, they just go straight into public health and they will be dealt with as if it was first class. Now, so healthcare is really strong. So that's attracting a lot of innovation, a lot of investment in this space. So there's that one. And then Steve, just moving on. I think you've got some more. Yeah, and tech, you know, Portugal, you know, going back to the event side of it, but Portugal now has the biggest tech event in the whole of Europe, the Web Summit, which comes up in November. You know, we've helped recently the ex-head of data science for Microsoft. We've had senior figures in MIT, the ex-head of due diligence for at Amazon, you know, and, you know, seismologists, all sorts of people that are bringing innovation to Portugal. I think it has one of the most amount of AI engineers moving to the country of anywhere in Europe currently. And that's, again, testament to the country and the lifestyle. So that's that one. And obviously, this is having an effect on tourism and hospitality. The last 2 or 3 years, they've had record tourism and hospitality, but also the demands on driving up the quality of that tourism. So where it's ecotourism, wellness tourism, you know, the standards of hospitality are being pushed high. So there's a lot of growth in there and still growth to come because, you know, people want more quality.
Sorry. Thank you, Paul, for giving us that overview. Antonio, could you sort of just tell us a little bit more about your Portugal Future Fund and maybe explain to the audience a bit about the investment thesis and its own diversification strategy?
I think I went a little bit early when I spoke about the sectors that drive Portugal's growth that we have identified, but I can go again on them. But basically the ones that Paul identified. But basically, just to give you a general perspective of Quadrantis, our senior team brings together a unique blend of entrepreneurial drive and institutional investment expertise and strategic insights, enabling us to actively support our portfolio companies well beyond capital deployment. Together, this team has scaled Quadrantis from 100 million euros to over 350 million in just 3 years. Our track record and their track record and deep network across sectors place Quadrantis at the forefront of the Portuguese private equity landscape. Thanks to this, we often gain access to high quality investment opportunities before they even get to the broader market. This allows us to structure deals under favorable terms, perform thorough due diligence early, and offer our investors privileged exposure to unique high growth companies. When we invest in the companies, we like to bring a little bit more than capital. We bring strategic guidance, operational support, and government expertise to every venture that we back. But as I mentioned before, the Portugal Future Fund is built around diversification across the sectors that will drive the growth of Portugal in the years to come. So basically, in short, and so I don't repeat myself. This is what I have to say right now.
Thank you, Antonio. But before we sort of move on to the Q&A, I can see there's lots of questions in the chat. I'd like to quickly touch on risk and investor protection. Paul and Antonio, sort of coming back to you, and perhaps you can weigh on this. How can investors protect themselves against overly aggressive marketing or promises of guaranteed returns?
I can go on this. I think that the most important thing to do is to have one-on-one calls to really make all the questions that come up to your mind, and to because investing is trusting your future in someone else. So I think it's very important that the people on the other side understand your investment needs, understand your history, and what you pretend and what you intend with this investment. So as I told before, it's really important to go deep on questions, and to understand what is the investment policy of the fund, what is the history and the track record of the management companies. And we are more than happy to have one-on-one calls to clarify all the doubts through WhatsApp, through email, any way that is good for the investors. We will be more than happy to help.
And Steve, just following on behind Antonio, again, quite often, if people don't want to have individual calls because it's too early, we got the index, so we can try to understand what their goals are, so that they can shortlist what fits best with them, and then we can arrange a call with the fund managers and the clients, and the clients' advisors. If they have advisors from their own country that they want to bring on those calls, they should do that. And if they want wealth advisors from Portugal, we can also marry that up as well. But it is important to do your due diligence, but also align what you're going to invest in to best fits you, and where you are in your investment cycle. And that's probably best done initially with someone like us, and then we can introduce the funds accordingly.
And just one final remark, because we are dealing with golden visa investments, it's very important to see if the investment policy aligns with the golden visa requirements, and also if, for instance, the lockup periods or the maturity of the fund aligns with the timelines to get the visa, and then apply to the citizenship or the permanent residency. So of course that either Portugal Pathways and CMS are more than knowledgeable in these fields, and they can help you with understanding the management regulation and all the procedure that is related with this investment.
Thank you, Antonio, Paul. And just sort of quickly, and sort of keeping to the same topic. Also, why is it important to understand fee structures and carried interests, along with sort of lockup periods before committing to capital?
Just so it's very important, because the way the things are structured, that will influence your investment and the return that come from it. So just speaking about the Portugal Future Fund in particular, we have like a standard annual management fee of 2%, hurdle rate of annual 4%. And then our profit distribution to promote the alignment of interests is 65% to the investors and 35% to the management company, above the 4% hurdle rate. There are no entry or exit fees. So once again, to promote the alignment of interest between the investors and the management company.
Lovely, thank you. Just sort of before we head into the Q&A, as I can see, we're getting lots of questions in the chat. Paul, I've got one question. Are you seeing a lot of people that come to Portugal after Brexit and COVID that want to spend more of their time in their homes in Portugal, but get fed up with counting days and having to sort of leave the country every 90 days and every 183?
Yeah, I think before, I think when this, Britain first went through the whole Brexit thing, people were sort of coming and going, and they weren't so worried about it. But I think now, I would say the last 5 people that we've onboarded for golden visa from the UK have come from people who already have homes out there, already live a big chunk of their life out there, but maybe have business interests elsewhere. So they have to go back, or they can run them from there. But they just hate the fact that every 90 days they have to leave, and then they can't come back for a while. So yes, that is something we are definitely seeing. And the last 5 British people that we onboarded for golden visa basically were people that had temporary visas in terms of coming back and forth, and they wanted the flexibility of the golden visa. And yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Paul. I'm really conscious of the time. We're nearly approaching the hour. I've got a few questions that I do want to address, but obviously we're not going to get to everybody's questions. And I just want to reiterate that the team at Portugal Pathways will reach out to those individuals where we haven't been able to address their questions and take it on a one-on-one basis. I've got a question here from Aisha. I think this is a question. I don't think we've covered this, so I'm going to put this to Henrique. So maybe you could answer the question and maybe expand on it a little bit. She said, I understand the investment has to have one person as the lead invest applicant, and then the spouse and children and grandparents, or parents, I think she means, who are over 65 can be added. So can you sort of talk around that?
Of course.
In a little bit more detail.
So basically, so imagine, so the main applicant makes the investment, and after filing the golden visa online and paying the analysis fee, it opens to file what we call the family reunification requests. Okay, so within the same investment, the applicant may include within the same request its family, who is for this purpose considered family. So the spouse, any children with less than 18 years old, and any children with more than 18 years old, as long as we demonstrate that they are single and they are studying. Okay, why? Because if they are more than 18 years old, we need to prove that the children are dependent, and for that we need to prove these 2 legal requirements: that they are single and that they are studying, being the main applicant or its spouse, the person responsible for the payment of the tuition fees. Okay, parents can also be added. If they are less than 65 years old, we need to prove that they are dependent, which most of the times they are not. If they are more than 65, we can just add them, but we just need to prove that they are parents, like with the children with more than 18 years old. So any children, if they are less than 18, they can be added anytime. If they are more than 18, we need to prove that they are studying and they are single. Parents, if they are less than 65, we need to prove dependency. If they are more than 65, we don't need to prove any dependency. We just need to prove that they are the parents of the main applicant or of the spouse of the main applicant. So yes, it's like this.
Thank you, Henrique. A question here from Joseph. I'm going to put this to Antonio first. He's saying, as I understand it, I have to put 500,000 euros into a Portuguese bank account ahead of making my investment in a golden visa approved fund or funds. He's heard that he could use a retirement account in an emergency. Could someone on the panel give him any context as to when this can apply, and are there any risks involved in doing it this way?
Yes, it is possible. We don't recommend our investors to do it, but I think that in order to not provide simplistic answer to a very complicated question, I think it's better to call a one-on-one meeting so that we can very well explain the situation, because there are some risks, potential risks involved, and that's why we do not recommend. But I would have to be speaking for 15 to 20 minutes, and I think that we don't have that much time here.
Thank you for that. A couple more questions.
Sorry, Steve, but
yeah.
just important to add that yes, it is possible, and that we already have that experience, that we have been doing it recently. Okay, I would just add this. So we have been doing it. We know how to do it, and it's possible to do it. It always needs to be closely advised, also by the American tax advisor, in order to see the best way from a tax perspective to do it. But we can do it. It's just a matter of seeing case by case what would be the best way of doing it. But we have experience on that, and we can help the investor if that's how he wants to make the investment for golden visa purposes.
Thank you, Henrik. A question here from Barbara, and I'm going to put this one to Paul. And she's saying, if she can get all of her documents together, including the criminal record report, is it possible to get the application done in 3 to 4 months, including the application and fund selection, as she's quite keen to get on with things based on what's going on in the US right now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's about how quick, how responsive you are. You know, someone like Henrik's team or another immigration law firm will give you a checklist of things documents that you need to put together, that need to, you know, you need certification and apostling and criminal records that need to be done, but they need to be done at the end of the process, not at the beginning, because they only last 3 months. But in reality, you can do it, and we've seen it happen. The main thing that slowed it up during the summer was probably the setup of bank accounts, and did slow a little bit in the summer months. But it can be done. But typically, it's between 3 and 6 months in our experience. You know, the assessment of the funds can be easily done in that first 3 months, but I would start with the NIF and the bank before you get too deep into that. But yes, that is possible, but more likely between 4 to 6 months in reality, because life sometimes gets in the way.
Well, let me just add something, Steve, and Paul, because yes, maybe that's the average of time that it takes. But if the client, asking for the Portuguese tax ID, which is the moment 0, it takes us around 1 week to get. Okay, then you start opening the bank account, which is taking around 3 weeks at the moment. If at the same time the client starts collecting the documents, the criminal record is taking a little bit longer to be apostilled, so it takes 1 month. But if the client is super quick, making his choices and getting the documents that we ask for, we have cases. It's true that sometimes it takes around 4 months, but we have cases in which we file in 2 months the golden visa. Okay, we have cases in which we can easily file if the client gets us what not only to us, if the clients get to the bank the documents that are requested for the KYC, if they get to the fund, the management entity of the fund, what is asked for the KYC of the fund, and if they get all the documents that need to be gathered, this 4 months can easily be reduced to 2 months. Okay, 2.5 months easily. Okay, easily. But as Paul was saying, it depends on how quick the clients get all the documents and send us the documents. But actually, it might take less than those 4 months. We have cases in which we filed in 2 months. Okay, easily.
Yeah, I think it's basically that there are two different factors that go into this equation. One is that there is several things running at the same time, and then what is the availability, the capacity of the client to provide enough information to comply with the KYC requirements of the bank, the Portuguese tax authority, and the management.
Okay. Thank you. I'm really conscious of the time and that we've sort of gone over our hour mark. But before we go, I really like to just go around the room from a panelist perspective and get their sort of key sort of takeaway for the audience. So, Paul, I'm going to start with you.
You need to think about your family and your family's life and whether this is the right fit for you, the golden visa and the flexibility that it gives you to be able to hedge your bets in terms of where you're going and evolve into, say, a life in Portugal or have a second passport. But the first thing I would say is get in touch with someone like Portugal Pathways, who basically are like the cement in the bricks, because it's a complex thing, planning these things out. And then just understand what the steps are. We can introduce partners, lawyers, fund managers a little bit further into the process, but plan early, talk to trusted partners that walk this path before. And when you do get bumps in the road, which you will get along the way, because it's life stuff here, then not to get too stressed about it. Just talk to them, talk to us, and because quite often these are things that are new to you, but they're not difficult things, but they just can sometimes feel difficult. So we'll be there every step of the way, and if we get a bump in the road, that's what we'll make sure it is, a bump in the road.
Lovely. Thank you, Paul. Henry?
No, I would just, I think we already went over the main aspects of the golden visa. I would just add, because we are having many, as we discussed during the call, many calls during this webinar with Americans that say to us that I don't think I want to raise, if this keeps going as it is, I don't want to raise my children in this country. I don't feel identified with this country. I'm afraid that the civil war is coming, so I want to have an ongoing alternative that I know that is for sure going to give me an European passport in a few years' time, the 5 years, whatever. But I want to have an ongoing alternative that gives me a second passport within a reasonable period of time. And what I can say to you is that we have been getting all the citizenship requests that we filed approved. It is now taking a little bit longer to be approved than before, but just for the comfort of everyone that is still listening to us, we have been getting all the citizenship requests that are being filed are being approved. So every week we have another citizenship request that was approved, and the golden visa applicants that we had from the last years are indeed getting, all of them, the citizenship approved and the European passport issued, which is indeed what basically everyone is looking for. So for everyone to know that it's an ongoing program that exists in Portugal, and it's live and kicking, and it's reaching the required results, which is basically everyone who applied for the golden visa and applied later on after 5 years for the citizenship, they are getting the European passports. So it's working. That's the message I wanted to leave here.
Lovely. Thank you, Henrik. I just want to sort of say before we wrap up, a big thank you to everybody, a big thank you to our panelists and to the audience for listening. If obviously this has whetted your appetite and you want to find out a little bit more and how it fits in with your plans, that plan B that a lot of people have been talking about on this webinar, please reach out to us. There's a link on the screen at the moment, and arrange a no obligation discovery call with one of Portugal Pathways Golden Visa advisors. And then obviously following that, we can then start to look to introduce you to partners such as Henrique at CMS and Antonio at the Portugal Future Fund, if that fits your needs. Before I go, I just want to just draw your attention to our next webinar, which is on November the 11th, and it's all around exploring Portugal's top international schools. So again, I think one of my colleagues has shared the registration link in the chat, so please register for that if that is of interest. Again, last one. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and we shall see you very soon. Thank you very much.